Good morning. It's Christopher Taylor up on the hill with Sovereign Harmony Astrology. We're going to do the astrology for what is essentially the last week, full week of August anyway, the 23rd to about the 29th. And we got a doozy this week. We've got the lunar eclipse in Pisces to round off this eclipse season. Following a couple weeks ago, we had the total solar eclipse in Leo. That kind of cleared some space when it comes to our egos and whatnot, and our pride. This is a flood of authenticity of feeling, emotion, all that kind of thing coming in as we speak here. So big week, like I said. Also, we have the superior conjunction of Mercury and the Sun. So that's the halfway point between Mercury retrogrades. So when they had the inferior conjunction back in July, that was in the middle of the last Mercury retrograde. And that Mercury retrograde was all about reevaluating what Jupiter did for us over the past year when it comes to emotional growth. And so that growth, that reevaluation of that growth kind of stamped the foundation of what this is concluding here this week. This is the superior conjunction in early Virgo, okay? And this is not a regular superior conjunction of the Sun and Mercury, because not only is it part of this lunar eclipse, it's the opposite side of where that moon is actually landing in Pisces, but it's getting squared by Uranus and Gemini. It's also the apex point of a yod, the finger of God, if you're not familiar with that. And that is the other side of that yod is the Neptune-Pluto sextile. Neptune in Aries, Pluto in Aquarius. So it is an apex of a yod. It is squared by Uranus. So all the outer planets are involved. Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are all involved with this superior conjunction. And it's kind of the anchor point of this lunar eclipse, this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, okay? So big energy, a sense that what we reevaluated, the emotional growth we've gone through in the past year, it now has to land. And there's a sense of having to evolve our standard operating procedure. That's that Virgo energy, okay? So our standard operating procedure in life when it comes to dealing with our emotions, when it comes to processing our feelings, etc. This is saying, the buck stops here, and from here forward, it has to be different. Okay, so we're evolving to our future selves. Our future selves are being begged to be inserted in the present. Okay, and so what we've gone through, what we've learned, needs to be implemented now for the future. Okay, so our standard operating procedure has to adjust, has to evolve for this future self, for this future set of energy, this new paradigm of energy that we're entered into already, but we're adapting to as we speak. Okay, so this lunar eclipse, really heavy, really intense, like a flood. Okay, I think of it like a dam break, and what happens after that. Now, there's a positive side to that. Okay, because it sounds negative when you first hear it, but we can ride that wave, and that's our souls are intending to do in this moment, is to ride the wave of that water as it's released. Okay, to not see it as a danger, a rush of destruction, but to ride it, because we are headed into a future that requires us to lean on our intuition, lean on our instincts. We got Mars in Cancer in a pleasant aspect to this lunar eclipse. So it is saying, hey, even if we're not super direct in our action, at least be instinctual with our action. It doesn't matter if it doesn't hit the nail on the head the first time. Just instinctually in the direction of where we need to head. That's all we need to do at this point. Chiron is also positively aspected to this lunar eclipse in Taurus. And so it's basically saying, like, hey, whatever we think we're worth in our previous ego selves, we're worth a whole lot more in our whole soul selves. We got to trust that, ride that wave toward that wholeness, which is coming right now, and realize that, yeah, we're worth more than the limitations of our worth were with our ego selves, with our pride. Okay, that's all breaking down. So these eclipses are working in tandem. That solar eclipse in Leo, all about opening up the door to break down the pride, break down the ego, to make room for the true soul self, for the whole self that wants to be here. And it's a flood of us, because that's how much we've been holding back from the world, that much of ourselves. So we've got to look at this flood as not like something against us or outside of us, but as the rest of us that we need to ride into the future. Okay? It is a part of us. We are deep. We are emotional. We are in our feelings. And those feelings can lead us in the right direction if we are centered, solid, and whole. Then that is our compass. Okay? And so we might not be used to that. And so again, that whole superior conjunction in Virgo with the Sun and Mercury getting apex by God with Neptune and Pluto, squared by Uranus, part of this lunar eclipse. It's like that old standard operating procedure has to go, because that's very limiting. That's one of the negative sides of Virgo, is the limitation. And it's artificial limitation, okay? It's about categorizing things, putting things into their boxes, okay? But some things don't fit into boxes, and that includes us. That includes anyone, okay, that is going from here to the... We don't fit into boxes. You don't fit into a box. So why follow that standard operating procedure that divides you and categorizes you into boxes, okay? And so we got to think of it like that. This lunar eclipse in Pisces is all about the rest of us coming back online. What we've pushed back, we've damned back because it was too much, or we perceived it to be too much, didn't fit into boxes, okay? We couldn't control it. We've got to anchor that back in here, okay? And again, that yod is basically saying it is time to evolve that standard operating procedure. It is time, right now. This is the evolution. So the coming months that we have ahead of us are all going to be all about this. It's not like things don't happen overnight, obviously, but this week is ushering that in. What's interesting is that, like, immediately following this lunar eclipse, and it'll be on Thursday, the 27th into the 28th, depending on where you are, but in the final days of August, we have Venus entering the shadow zone for the upcoming retrograde. That's going to be a Venus retrograde from Scorpio back into Libra. Very deep, very clearing, okay? It's going to also be making aspects to the outer planets, kind of like this lunar eclipse is. It will oppose Chiron in both Taurus and Aries, because Chiron will move back into Aries this fall. And it will be the apex of a yod, and that will be a yod to what will it be? I think it's going to be the Uranus Neptune. Yes, Uranus Neptune sextile. Okay, while also squaring Pluto in Aquarius. So all outer planets and Chiron involved with this Venus retrograde coming up this fall, and that'll be pretty much October, November time frame. And this lunar eclipse is setting that up. Okay. This is in a water sign of Pisces. That Venus retrograde will be in a water sign of Scorpio back into Libra. So our relationships are about to really go through a mega adjustment this fall. And that is because of this adjustment to ourselves that has to usher in. We have to usher in all of us. And so any relationships we have that are based on part of us are going to have to go. They're going to be eliminated. The only relations that we can go forward with in any part of our lives, in any context of our lives, is going to be ones that are aligned with our whole true selves, our sovereign authenticity. Okay, so this might not be the easiest several months ahead of us. Okay, if we want to cling to relationships that kind of define that limitation that we are, that box that we fit in, like, this is who I am. This is the people that I hang out with because of that, who I am. And just when that gets obliterated, that can be scary. But the reality is we're really coming into more of ourselves. Like I said, ride that wave. That's the best way to use this lunar eclipse energy. Ride the wave. Understand that evolution is necessary right now in terms of our standard operating procedure. Understand that, like, the information that comes in, or the internal realizations that come in with that Uranus and Gemini part of this, we have to own those truths, because we can't take them back. Like, once they're in our face, we know that it's true. We can't go backwards. So we got to move forward, ride that wave forward from there, and then just open up to the universe, basically, to allow us to adapt our relationships, eliminate those that no longer work, and bring in those that now work. Okay, so it's a lot of information, a lot of energy to try to sum up here in a brief amount of time. But what's great is that at the end of the week, what's starting is this trine between Jupiter in Leo to Saturn in Aries, and that'll be with us in and out until next July. So this is very stabilizing, very aligned with our authenticity, and expanding that instead of our ego. So it's about, making room for our true selves to exist in this world is going to be a big theme over the coming months into next summer. If you have any questions, please let me know. Any comments, put them below. If you're interested in a personal reading, we do those as well. You can contact me for that. Other than that, enjoy your Sunday, enjoy your week, and then we will see you next week. Take care.